Like a bolt of lightning, it sparked something inside us all. It was a journey into the imagination, to a world filled with magic, heart, and a courageous trio of friends. Eventually, we turned the final page. But the boy who lived, lives on.
Platform 9 3/4.
Best to do it at a run if you're nervous.
Mischief managed.
Albus is missing.
I need to find my son. We need to.
And sometimes, darkness comes from unexpected places.
Harry, is Albus in danger?
I think we all are.
J.K. Rowling continues her story on stage, where the magic is real.
Flipendo! Venite! Tarantaledra!
I've never fought alone, you see, and I never will.
Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. Experience it now.
Hello, I'm Calum Finlay, and welcome to Wizarding Wednesday, our special bonus episode of Chatterbox, episode 9 3/4, if you will. I'm an actor and writer, as well as an associate artist and alumnus of Playbox Theatre. Now, for those of you new to Chatterbox, this is an ongoing series of conversations with actors, directors, and artists from across the industry. If you want to catch up on previous episodes, you can head over to youtube.com/Playbox Theatre, where you can watch our chats with BAFTA, Olivier, and Emmy-nominated actor Juliet Stevenson, or the Royal Shakespeare Company's multi-award-winning Hamlet, Papa Essiedu. Now, before we meet our guest this week, a quick reminder that, as always, we want you to get involved in these conversations too. So please send in your questions via Zoom's Q&A function. If you hover your mouse over the bottom of your screen on a laptop or the top of your screen on a mobile, then you'll find a button that you can click to send questions directly into my inbox. You'll also be able to see the questions other people have asked and to vote for the ones you'd like to hear answered. The more votes, the higher they appear in my inbox. Remember that there might be people out there who don't know Harry Potter and the Cursed Child quite as well as you do, so keep the secrets. Now, I promise we'll try and get through as many as we can at the end. If you're watching live on YouTube, fear not. Though you can't message in questions, you can still get involved by helping to support Playbox Theatre, the company behind Chatterbox. Playbox was my Hogwarts, a place where I was suddenly surrounded by other theatre wizards who shared my passion for the charms of live theatre, the transfiguration of actors, and where the whole place felt like a defence against the dark arts of maths and geography. It's an incredible resource for young people, and during these unprecedented times, they need your help. So please, please head over to playboxtheatre.com/donate and give whatever you can afford to. Every single penny will, I promise, make a huge difference. Now, it's probably time to introduce my two guests. Johnathan Case needs no introduction, but I'll do it anyway. A recent graduate of LAMDA, the oldest drama school in the country, he's worked twice for the BBC in their long-running drama Holby City and in their fantastic retrospective on playwright Joe Orton, Laid Bare. His first feature film, Under Gods, is due for release in 2020, and he spent the last 2 years playing Scorpius Malfoy in the smash hit West End show Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. But most importantly, before all of that, he started as a member of Playbox Theatre in Kenilworth when he was just 7 years old. John, thank you for joining our bonus Chatterbox episode. How are you holding up in isolation? You're with your family in Warwickshire, I believe. Oh, John, we can't hear you. You might need to turn your mic.
Hello, Callum.
You're with your
I'm
family.
very well.
Nice to be home.
Yeah, I am with my family. I've been home in the Midlands in Warwickshire since about 2 weeks before lockdown.
Very nice. And now, look, I should introduce our other guest. Joining John is the one and only Jamie Ballard. Now, Jamie Ballard also needs no introduction, but I'll do it anyway. Voted by The Guardian as one of the 10 best Hamlets of all time, Jamie's career has included work at almost every major theatre going. I'm talking the National Theatre Wales, the Hampstead, Arcola, Trafalgar Studios, Theatre Clwyd, Salisbury, Tobacco Factory, Barbican, the Globe, and 8 productions with the Royal Shakespeare Company. His TV career has been just as illustrious. Three Girls, Penny Dreadful, Ripper Street, The Hollow Crown. He was in the feature film Suffragette alongside Helena Bonham Carter, Carey Mulligan and Meryl Streep. He's currently playing Harry Potter in the smash hit West End production of Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. And, as if that weren't enough, he speaks Japanese. Konnichiwa, Jamie. Thank you for joining our bonus episode. How are you?
Konnichiwa, Calum. Genki? Hisashiburi, Calum.
I wish I knew what that meant. You're still in London, I think. How are you holding up?
Yeah, in London, it's okay. It's, trying to stay sane, but yeah, everyone is doing their bit, staying at home and yeah, trying to save the NHS. So it's all good. Yeah.
Now, look, you were both performing in Harry Potter and the Cursed Child in the West End when coronavirus took hold. John, maybe you could tell us, what was it like closing the show midway through a run? Are you still getting a kind of kick of adrenaline at 7 o'clock each day?
It was really strange. I think it was quite dramatic seeing the world reacting to what's going on right now. And I think obviously the first things that had to take immediate action were the places with big gatherings of people, which obviously the theatre is. And so, there was sort of the week before we closed, we were hearing, Germany, unfortunately, they've just opened. They were about to have their press night and they had to close. They've closed till October, definitely till October. And so we were hearing things like this, and then all of Broadway closed. So it was very, it was sort of touch and go. It was quite dramatic hearing about everything else going on in the world. And we were like, okay, well, we're doing this show luckily to a packed audience. But, in that time it was quite scary. We were like, okay, well, what's, so as soon as the decision was made, I think it was a bit of a relief of like, okay, well, at least we know what the rules are now. But I have to say, in the past sort of 2 weeks, I've really noticed my body sort of adjusting to not doing the show, and sometimes thinking of, I'll have scenes pop into my head, and I'll sort of space out and realise I've done half a scene. But yeah, it's been fairly relaxing, luckily for me. But I do miss it.
I bet. Well, Jamie, you were telling me that everyone's been staying in touch and that the movement team have been organising Zoom yoga classes for everyone. Has that helped you kind of stay in contact with the show?
Yeah, it's nice in that when we do get together for a yoga session in the morning, it's not just the London production. There are some of the Germany cast joining as well, and so it's nice to meet them. But it is just seeing the friendly faces and hearing the voices, and obviously during rehearsals we had a very, very full-on fitness regime in the mornings. To get to a level of fitness that the show requires, and so it's nice to sort of to try and keep that going, and so that when we do get back to it, we're not sort of all Teletubbies, but it's also just good to have a routine to know that, okay, I need to get up in the morning and I need to go and get my sort of fitness stuff on and get into a schedule and a routine. So it keeps you sane that way as well. But yeah, it's an amazing team, and they have created this fitness regime that has certainly over the course of my time on Harry, my physique has changed, and I don't want to lose that anymore. So yeah, keep that going.
Well, it's an amazing show as well. I mean, I saw it a few years ago, and for anyone who's watching who's not seen it, it genuinely is magical. There was a moment in the show where, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but Professor McGonagall, I think, lists things that have been taken from a store cupboard. Now, to me, a fairly innocuous list, but the person who I was with almost leapt with excitement. They're making polyjuice potion. And it just made me realise that the show almost feels like it's in dialogue with the audience. I mean, people are gasping and screaming at the arrival of some characters.
Yeah.
I guess, maybe this is one for you, John. Do you think the way the audience participate in the story is part of what makes the show so special?
Yeah, 100%. I think, I don't know what exactly the figures are, but someone once told me that it's quite a high percentage of the audience on any given day are people who've actually maybe never seen a show at the theatre before. So you're getting audiences in who are there because they know the story, which is, also because they want to go to the theatre. But it's this really unique thing where you get to do a story that is so well known that the audience have, and actually it's a lovely ownership the audience have over the story because they know it and love it so well. But you get to start the show knowing that they are excited to see certain characters and certain plot points, and when you get to offer them to the audience, it's such a gift, to be able to there's a I'm not going to try not to spoil things, but there's a character I reference in part 2 that always gets a gasp from the audience, and it's delightful. Every single day, the show's been on for 4 years now, and it doesn't change that little moments like that, because the story is so vastly spread and known.
Yeah, is that the same for you, Jamie? Because Harry Potter is, the most famous wizard in the world, isn't he? And I think because people grew up with the books, I was taking my GCSEs at the same time Harry was taking his owls. I think a lot of people feel a kind of ownership and feel like they really know the character. Was it ever daunting taking on someone so well loved?
Yeah, it was hugely daunting, and when the call came through, there was a absolute dichotomy of elation and dread, and I remember during rehearsals, after rehearsals one day, a few of us were having a drink, and one of my friends in last year's cast said, "You do know they might hate you," and I was like, "Oh, thanks, mate." But there's a huge responsibility that these characters are so well loved and so well understood, and so many people I meet after the show take solace in them in difficult times in their lives, and so there is a huge responsibility, and the themes that the play and the books address of love and friendship, of loneliness, of isolation. I mean, my goodness, isolation, that's the word that is on everyone's lips, isolation, and the radicalization that can result in as out of that isolation. They're huge themes, and so there is a massive responsibility, but also a massive privilege, and as I'm sure John will say as well, that all we can do is read the books, read the plays, try and understand where they're coming from, who they are, what they're trying to do. But at the end of the day, it's just us as human beings that are the conduit for those characters. And so I hope that the Harry I am is one that people understand and relate to and know and love, but is different to the Harry who was before me, and is different to Daniel Radcliffe. And but in some small way, I just hope that when they do come and see it, they go, "Oh my goodness, what you do there is exactly how I saw Harry." And you go, "Oh, brilliant! If I've done that just for a little bit, then I feel like I've done my job, and hopefully I've honoured these incredibly special characters." And but the day one, first performance, and going out and meeting the people afterwards, I'm not going to lie, I was absolutely terrified. But like you have, with regards to doing a part like Hamlet, all you have is that one play, and that's it. You can look into Shakespeare's life and his, the death of his son and all that kind of thing, but basically you have that one play. But these plays, you have the 2 plays, but you have all the books as well. So there's a wealth of material there to mine. But at the end of the day, it's, you do your homework and go out and hopefully sort of be yourself, but honour the characters that have been written.
Well, it's interesting you mention Hamlet, because you've done some, huge roles in the past, and lots of Shakespearean roles, Antonio, Merchant of Venice, King John, and King John Hamlet in Hamlet. I wondered if there was a sort of different approach to doing a role like this. I mean, I know Shakespeare relies a lot on the imagination of the audience, and one of the great things about Cursed Child is that there's almost no imagination required, because all the magic you read about in the books, it kind of really happens live in front of you. So was there a different approach that you had, or
not really? I mean, basically did my homework, worked out, what it is I'm trying to achieve, how I'm trying to affect the person I'm talking to, doing the homework of who these characters are. But absolutely, Calum, that sort of when it comes down to it, the production is just this incredible marvel. And I remember, I don't know if you, John, that on during rehearsals, we would ordinarily be in a rehearsal room, and then towards the end of rehearsals, you'd go to the theatre and tech, and then be in the theatre and do it there. But because on Tuesdays, the theatre is not open to the public and there are no shows, we were, as a cast, able to go into the theatre on a Tuesday and be there with all the bells and whistles, all the lights, all the props, and rehearse from week one on stage on a Tuesday. And I remember a scene early in part one in my office, the Ministry of Magic, and I do a spell, and I obviously knew what the spell was because I'd read the play and also I'd seen it as well. So I knew what would happen, but obviously thinking it's not going to happen today because it's in rehearsals. And the first time I did the spell, all this stuff happened, and I was like, oh my God, can I do magic? That's why they cast me. That's why they cast me. It was unbelievable. And and whenever I do that spell, it just, and what was nice is that when I had that response, and that first time we did the scene in rehearsals, the stage manager said that reminded me just how special this is. We get used to all these amazing things happening, and the spells and the bells and whistles and the fire and all this kind of stuff. And your reaction then just made me realize, yeah, this is a pretty cool job.
How incredible. I mean, so was there, as a mere muggle, was there a sort of wizardry boot camp you had to sort of go through?
Yeah. John, do you want to answer that?
Well, Scorpius actually only does, well, technically he does 2 shows. That's 2 spells in the whole show. So I do a lot of reacting to other people doing magic, which is great. He's very good at magic. He just doesn't happen to do so much. But we had amazing illusionist team came in, and there was somebody representative from the illusions team there through the whole of the rehearsal period. And we had in the first week a sort of little sleight of hand afternoon where we practiced that, because there's a lot of that in the show. I think the magic in the show is amazing because it varies from things like really traditional sort of Victorian sleight of hand, very, very traditional magic, to then incredibly high-end tech. And I think actually it's the variation of the different types of illusions that are in the show that make it so exciting, because you as the audience, I think you don't know what's going to hit you and how it's going to be in front of your eyes, and some of it looks so real in different ways to how other bits look so real. I think it's really, it's the magic doesn't try to be cool, which I think is really brilliant. The magic is just there to support the story, and also it is fun and amazing. But I think that's the most exciting part of it, is that you're in this world where the magic is real, and yeah, it's fantastic.
Well, the story is great, and your character, John, in many ways, he's one of the sort of heroes of the story, isn't he? And what's so wonderful about that, well, to my mind, when I was watching it, is that he isn't and wasn't a sort of traditional Disney-fied action man style hero. He's sort of, Scorpius is really conflicted and vulnerable. I wondered if that was something you had kind of spoken about in rehearsals. Yeah,
so he's an amazing character to play from the beginning, and I feel so lucky I get to play him for so many reasons. One of my favourite things is that, like I said before, the audience is so used to, or, they know the story, and they know the world, they know Harry, and so, Jamie talking about what weight that has. knowing this character previously, I had the huge luck and also, you know, gift, I suppose, of playing a character who we don't know yet. You know, you know him if you've read the script, but you know the Malfoys. If you come in, you're like, okay, well, this is a pretty antagonistic family. They're quite austere and high status. And then I get to, in my very first scene, playing him 11 years old, play this little boy who's very kind and off the wall and anxious and likable. And I think that is an incredible gift, and I've loved doing that. So, and then obviously he goes through this huge journey, and he is the hero, and he does save the day in many ways. But you're right, he's very. I think it's unusual to find a character who's a young man, a 15-year-old, a teenage boy, basically, who is so open, who is unable to not be himself. I think that's an amazing thing about his character. He doesn't have the ability to even be someone else, actually, I think, because he's so truly himself and vulnerable and emotionally in tune with himself, I think, as well, which means, unfortunately, that he makes himself vulnerable to people who maybe see him as weird or too much to be around, and so he does get bullied. But it's been, he's a fantastic, complicated character to play. Yeah,
he's wonderfully complex, isn't he?
Yeah.
No, look, we could talk about Harry Potter all day, but I know we've got some young people watching who'll be interested in hearing about some of the big decisions you made when you were their age. And so, Jamie, I wondered, you decided to get a degree in Japanese before becoming an actor.
Yeah.
Was that a difficult choice to make?
Wow. Very briefly, my entire teenage years, I was going to follow my mum and dad into medicine. And so that was the way I was going to go. And I was like hearing John talk, I was painfully shy at school, painfully shy. It was debilitating. And it was only in my final year at school where I had to do a piece of coursework where I had to be a character from a play we were studying and sort of basically hot seat that character. So I had to answer questions and be that person. It was only then that I started to sort of come out of my shell. And so I was going to go into medicine. I did a thing called the International Baccalaureate because I grew up in the Middle East. And I got offered a place at my parents' medical school if I got 36 points, and I got 35. And so I didn't get in. So I was like, okay, what am I going to do? And I spoke to my mum and dad. I was like, I'd like to maybe try and go into drama. And they were like, okay, but get a degree first, and then we'll talk about it. It's like, oh, what can I do as a degree? Well, if I want to be an actor, I could do a language. An actor could use a language. So my brother did Russian at university, and my stepfather did Arabic. And so I thought I'd do Chinese or Japanese. And so I went into Japanese with a view to maybe in the future going to drama school and doing theatre at university in the theatre club. I think my dad thought I was going to go to Japan and become a lawyer and lots of money. But at the end of my degree, I said, right, I would like to try and apply for drama school now. And they were like, okay, well, that was the deal. You know, if you go to university and get a degree, then we'll talk about it. And so my family, my mum, my dad, my stepmom, my stepdad supported me wholeheartedly, and my brother, to go, right, let's do this. And so thankfully I got into Bristol Old Vic and sort of went on from there. But so it wasn't a big sort of heart-wrenching decision to decide to do Japanese. It was hard work doing Japanese, but I had an idea of where I wanted to go, and having the medical profession sort of route pulled from under me. Funnily enough, it wasn't that big a disappointment. It maybe was a watershed moment where I was like, right, that wasn't meant to be. And my dad said, you know, I'm kind of glad you didn't get in, because, you know, he felt a responsibility that he may have, you know, but he never did, push me that way. My parents never did that. They were always very supportive of whatever I wanted to do. But he retired early from the medical profession because he wasn't happy with how he was being asked to work. And so it was like, I'm kind of glad. And it's a very scary thing, I think, for a parent to see their child embark on a career that is incredibly uncertain, and no one knows what can happen, whether you'll ever have a career and so it was a big moment for all of us to go, right, let's have a crack at this, but one day at a time, and touch wood, it's been all right, but yeah, it's one job at a time, and let's see what happens. But I get to work with the likes of John Case, so I'm in a happy place.
Well, John, I think your route to drama school was slightly less straightforward as well. Did you always know you wanted to go to drama school?
So you obviously said I was a member of Playbox at the same time as you, and that Playbox is amazing because it's such a real taste of, I think, what a professional theatre is like. You've got all the Playbox is amazing for anyone who doesn't know. It's a full functioning theatre solely for young people. So I was able to do shows at Playbox and really get a taste for what it's like to not work in theatre necessarily, but to be in a professional show. I really do believe that, and that gave me a huge idea that theatre was something, or acting in general was something that I really was passionate about. And then again, though, I wasn't sure how to become an actor. I know you went to drama school before me, and so I knew it was achievable. And I think I did Lord of the Flies. I did that when I was 17, I think, at Playbox, and I was like, I really sort of sunk my teeth into the work of doing that show for the first time, I think, maybe. And after that production, I knew that was something that I could do for work. And so I think after then I decided that's what I wanted to do. Then it went, okay, well, I want to apply to drama school. I sort of did that with quite a chaotic attitude, I think, as an 18-year-old finishing sixth form. I really hadn't been doing very well at sixth form. I actually didn't get any A-levels my first time round, because I'm applying for drama school, and this is what I want to do. I was quite unhappy at sixth form, and so I applied. It was an absolute train wreck because I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't ask anyone for any help. So I'd done all these shows at Playbox, and suddenly I was in this audition room, like, how does this work? Sort of flailing around, trying to get into drama school. Didn't get in. And then I was like, oh, I'm stuck in the Midlands now. And I redid my A-levels myself. So I applied to a different college. And I was applying to university as well, because I was like, here I go. And I was really applying myself at college. And I ended up getting my A-levels, and I was going to go to university to do English. But I also did apply to a few drama schools. So it happened. It was so lucky. I went to my Lambda audition, and I got a recall, and then they offered me a place on the foundation course at Lambda. And I was like, well, I can still go to university after that, but I'll do the foundation course. I was lucky enough to have some of my family be able to help me do it. So that was amazing. Did the foundation course, and then at the end of the foundation course, I auditioned and got into the 3-year program. So that was my dream, and it became my dream as the small realities of that became true, if that makes sense. Mm. I was ready to go to university at a certain point, which I think would have been a nightmare. I think I would have been really sad.
Well, it's all the better for all of us that you didn't.
Yes, I feel very lucky.
Well, as do we. Now, it's probably time to meet a Playbox member, I would think. We thought it would be nice for you to meet Lucy. Now, Rich, our technical wizard, is going to magic Lucy onto your screens to ask a question in person. Lucy is a really, really committed member of Stratford Playbox. Does a whole host of workshops. She does stage fighting, voice. She was a member of the Acting for Screen course. She's done loads of Playbox productions. And she's a Harry Potter mega fan, I happen to know. Lucy, there you are. How are you holding up in isolation, Lucy? Is it weird having to do school online?
Yeah, a bit. I mean, I get work sent to me, so yeah.
Of course you do. Now, I think you've got a question for Jamie, is that right?
Yeah, well, I have two questions, really.
Shoot.
So for Jamie,
Yeah.
I would like to know how did you start, I guess, to approach playing such a well-known character?
Good question, Lucy. I think what is the thing that I try and always do when I start playing or start a job is, whether it's Shakespeare or a modern play. It's easier with a modern play because you can go, I'm going to treat this like a new play. But I try and do that with Shakespeare as well. So when I did Hamlet, I was like, okay, this is a new play. And I'm going to start from page 1, word 1. And I'll come to Harry in a second. When I got offered Hamlet, I was like I was with Harry. I was terrified because there is this massive expectation. Everybody has an opinion about who Hamlet is and what he's like and why he is the way he is and how he feels about Ophelia and all that kind of stuff. And I had friends straight away going, obviously he's this, obviously he's that. And I was like, oh, okay, right. I don't know yet, but you're telling me this. And I spoke with an amazing actor, well respected in the profession. And I saw his Hamlet on the night of my showcase from drama school, graduation showcase. And I happily managed to be in the same theatre as him when he was doing a job. And one day we met in the green room and we spoke about Hamlet. And he said, the thing about Hamlet that I think you'll love finding out, because this is what happened to me, is that you'll go down all these routes in the rehearsal room, you'll go, think of all these different things, you'll peel the onion, all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, more than any other part, you'll realize he's just you. And that's it. And I was like, oh, wow. And so when I started rehearsals on Hamlet, I began with me, and, it's about a man whose parent has died, and I just lost my mum. And so it was like, okay, we're starting from a place that I have some kind of emotional knowledge about, and we went on from there. And that's how I try and approach every job since, of like, right, yes, there is all this wealth of material about this character that's been written so beautifully by Joe and now by Jack Thorne and John Tiffany. And but he's a dad, he's a husband, he is struggling to get through the day with work. He's under pressure. He's not connecting with his son. He's trying to do the right thing. And so you start to sort of latch on to things that you can sort of kind of associate yourself with and go, yeah, I struggle with that. I don't, there are moments where I have a disconnect, and I'm trying to connect with somebody, but I get driven off in a different direction because of what they've said to me or whatever it may be. And so it's just latching onto those things. You go, okay, I can see who this person may be. And it starts from me. And like I say, obviously there is this wealth of stuff that's been written, but ultimately he's just a guy trying to do the right thing. And what another character trait of Harry's, which I think I have, is that I try my default setting is, everybody okay? Everybody okay? Okay, I'll do that. Don't you worry about that. I will be quiet, and I will take this on so you don't have to worry about it. And that was a trait that I saw in Harry. I was like, that, I think I do that. And which is not always a great trait to have. Communication is good, but I think Harry does go, I'll deal with this. Nobody else worry. I'll do it. And as a result, this pressure just builds. And at some point, the little lid on the pan is going to, start to go like that. And then, so there are little traits that you see in a character. You go, yeah, I think I do that. I'm like that. And so I was terrified about playing Harry. But also, the flip side of that seesaw is that, like I said earlier, that there are some incredibly beautiful and important themes in the books and in the plays that are, I think, very, very necessary to tell and to convey and to help people. And like I said, people take solace in these characters. And so there is an immense pressure and an immense privilege. And so to talk about these wonderful themes of love and family and friendship and grief, again, another thing that I know about, that there is a moment, well, I won't give anything away, but there, that is a big thing to understand grief, to have experienced it. I don't wish it on anyone, but if you're going to be playing a character who has experienced it, having experienced it, is something to go, okay, that's another thing I can hook something onto because I do know about that or have experienced that. So those kind of massive themes, important themes, but also being surrounded by the likes of John and the wonderful cast and crew that we have. I know that we are in this together, and that people won't like things, people will like things. All we're trying to do is tell the story to the best of our ability. And so I know that is what we are doing. And hopefully people will go, yeah, good job.
What a fantastic answer. Lucy, you're going to be able to take that back to your pals at Stratford Playbox?
Yeah, hopefully.
Did that answer your question, Lucy?
Yes, it did, thank you.
And you had a quick second question. What was that?
Yeah, this is for both of you. Which house do you think you would really be in at Hogwarts?
John?
I think Jamie and I have quite a similar answer to this, if I remember rightly. We were all asked to do Pottermore, the sorting test before we started rehearsals. I did it on the train and I got Gryffindor, and I deleted my account and I went online and I Googled how to get sorted into Slytherin on Pottermore. And there's a lot of questions. They don't make it easy yet, but I worked it out and I got Slytherin the second time. And I think what that means is that I probably am Gryffindor, but with heavy Slytherin tendencies.
What about you, Jay?
Just the mere fact that you Googled how to is very Slytherin. So
exactly, very.
When we were cast, we were instructed to go onto Pottermore and get sorted, because during rehearsals, if we did something good or had a good answer or whatever, we get points for our house, and there was a whole house point system going on. So we had to get sorted, and so I did it, and I got sorted into Hufflepuff. And then on day one of rehearsals, we had this terrifying talk from the main guy in advertising and sort of online security and what to say, what not to say, how people can find out about you and all the stuff about Harry Potter and so I freaked out, and so I deleted my Pottermore account. And then at the end of rehearsals, we had to find out what our Patronus was. So I was like, okay, so I've got to go back and I've got to go into Pottermore again and find out my Patronus. But to do that, I've got to be sorted again. So I was like, okay, answer the questions without doing any Googling about how to do what or whatever. I was just like, okay, I'm going to answer the questions honestly. And at the end of 10 weeks of rehearsal, I was sorted into Gryffindor. So I kind of thought, my God, I'm so in character. Over 10 weeks, I've really become Harry Potter. But yeah, so I think, like John says, I think I have massive Hufflepuff sensibilities, but I hope there's also a little Gryffindor in there as well. I mean, I honestly did the answering questions honestly, quickly. Yeah, that, and it was Gryffindor. So,
amazing. Lucy, thank you so much for those questions.
Thanks, Lucy.
See you soon. Bye. Now, John and Jamie, before we go to my inbox, which is absolutely jam-packed, let me tell you, with questions, we're going to launch a little poll. Now, for those of you participating in the webinar, you can vote for which theatrical mishap story you would like to hear at the end. Your options are John's magic trick goes wrong in Cursed Child, or Jamie's alternative end to Hamlet. That poll should be on your screen now. You've not got long to vote. And just a quick reminder for anyone watching at home that you can head over to playboxtheatre.com/donate if you want to help support the future of this remarkable company. Whether you want to act, work backstage, make films, or join the circus, Playbox has a workshop that can help young people explore those ambitions. Magic. Now, let's head across to the participants' questions to see what they've got for you. And let me tell you, so many. Okay, let's jump in right at the top. This has been voted for the most times. Hi, John and Jamie, says Izzy. Are there any similarities between yourself and your portrayals of Harry and Scorpius? Should we go John first?
Yeah, so this is interesting. I was just thinking about this when Jamie was talking about how he began working out how to play Harry. I think it's really exciting when you are playing a character who you immediately feel like you have an affinity to, and I felt like that with Scorpius. I knew I wanted to play him from the moment I found out that he existed, and that's really exciting. And then when you get to it, it's, I think, actually more interesting when you hit sort of barriers when you're doing rehearsals or when you're working through the play in rehearsal, and you realize, oh, this bit isn't flowing as well as maybe this or that bit, and you realize it's because that is something that is a different character or characteristic of the character and you. And I think it's really difficult sometimes, I find, to mine those characteristics that don't immediately come to you. Like, I think you can play them in a spectrum of, you can play high status, lower status, but if there's a characteristic that just simply isn't within you, I think that those are the most interesting things to work on when you're rehearsing. And I think I'm similar. I'm similar to Scorpius because he's quite. I've got a certain erratic nature sometimes. I think he's quite he's quite all over the place. He is very passionate, and I was like, I can do that. He's sometimes quite shy and socially awkward, and I was like, well, I've been there. He's very kind. I don't think I'm as kind as Scorpius, but I think that was something I was like, okay, well, how can I see my own kindness, and how can I sort of shoot for his, and how is he able to be as kind as he is? But I think what's so different about Scorpius is that so I sometimes use my sense of humour in I think quite a self-deprecating way, and I think Scorpius is self-deprecating as well, but he also uses his as a defense mechanism, and he's very forthcoming with his sense of humor. He's very open with his sense of humor, and I think that openness, the lack of irony in the way he displays himself to the world, I was like, oh, this is very different from me. I found it really hard in rehearsals to hit the moments where he was fully like heart open to the world, being kind and open at the same time. I think sometimes I find it difficult to be serious about my emotions and genuine to myself at the same time. And he very much is the opposite. He's incredibly open and vulnerable, and he can be very sincere at the same time. And I was like, okay, well, I need to work out how to attain those qualities.
How interesting.
Well. Yeah.
What about you, Jamie?
That was a great answer, John. Yeah, I think that I very much put a I let things well, how do I say this? I bottle things up, I think is probably the way best to describe it. I'll let things go, I'll let things go, I'll let things go, I'll let things go without saying anything. And then when it's got to a level, then I'll sort of go, no! And I think Harry is very much lid on, everything's okay, everything's in control, I'm on top of everything, don't worry, I'm dealing with this. Don't you take any responsibility for this. It's all on me. I think I have an element of that in me. I wish I was better at at letting little valves out, every now and again, going talk, keep talking. Come on, let's discuss this. I think I'm getting better at it, but I think that is what Harry does, just because he doesn't want anyone else to worry mainly. But also, I think what is lovely is the friendships that exist, and friends are incredibly important to me. And it's just such a. I mean, this is why this job, acting, not just Harry Potter, but why it's just such a wonderful job to be out there on a stage, sharing moments with people who have now become your great friends, and to really communicate with them every night, every afternoon, and to look into their eyes and know that you are sharing something that to me is important in life. And so to be able to do that in my job is wonderful. And so the friendships the incredibly important friendships that Harry has, and how they help each other, the totally sort of symbiotic relationships they have. I think I have a few in my life that are incredibly important. I think, again, I think he is also, having said that, which is a weird dichotomy or a contradiction, but having said that, having these amazing friendships, he is also alone. He's a loner, and I think there is a big part of me that is that I think because of his upbringing, that he has had to some extent be happy in who he is, and accept that. And I think I have an element of that myself. But I totally agree with what John said about the moments in rehearsals where you go, yeah, totally get this, and then go, whoop, what's that? Oh my God, how do I negotiate this? I wasn't expecting that. And a thing that I've developed over my time with being in the business is that if I read something and go, I have absolutely no idea how to do that, let's do it. Let's have a crack at this. And I remember I was offered Antigone, not the part of Antigone, because that'd be like, whoa, how am I going to do that? But I was offered the part of Tiresias in Antigone a few years ago, and I read it, and I was like, what? He comes on and talks for about 10 minutes non-stop, 15 minutes non-stop. It's like, oh my God, what? And it's become a sort of a mantra with my agent of like, they will ask me, do you think this will challenge you? No. Okay, then no. If they ask, have you any idea how to do that? No. Okay, let's do it. And that's building on what John said of going, those moments are the moments that really make you realize what an amazing job this is. That, my God, that you have the opportunity to try and unknit some really knotty emotion or interaction or characteristic. You go, how the hell did someone get to that moment in their life? Or what are they doing there? Why did they say that? How did they get through that moment? Okay, let's have a crack at this and try and work it out. And those are the moments that make this amazing job even all the more worthwhile.
I was just thinking, Jamie, when you said that, it made me think of how long we've been doing the show as well. You and I both started in summer 2018, and you work these things out in rehearsals. We had a long rehearsal period to work these things out, but we also were able and have been able to do the show for such a length of time. I don't know if you feel the same way as this. I feel the amount of discoveries I've made during those 2 years, like even last month when we were doing the show, sometimes I'm like, oh, he's actually hiding behind this tree in this way because he's thinking about this different thing that I've never thought of before. And I think that's been amazing as well, just constantly trying to have little realizations about your character and why they might be feeling the way they are.
Absolutely.
You'll be making those discoveries after 2 years on the show. What a joy.
Yeah.
Another question, just because we've got so many to get through.
Yeah.
Emily would like to, and Emily has sent in loads and loads of questions, but right at the top of the list here is quite interesting. What do you like to do backstage during the show when you're not on? Jamie, let's go to you.
I find it very, very hard once the show goes up to think about much else. There have been times when I've been on a job and not doing as much as Harry does in the shows, and I've had to prepare for an audition or something, and I just can't do it. I go to the dressing room and I try to read a play or try to read some scenes, and I find it really, really hard, because once the lights go up, I'm like, okay, we're in, here we go. And no matter how much I was doing in the play. And so with Harry, once we start, I find it really tricky to do anything else apart from I have a couple of points in part one where I can, was one point really in part one where I can go back to my dressing room for about 5 minutes. And so I'll sit down with Tom, who plays Ron, and we'll have a bit of banter because I bloody love him. But yeah, I find it very hard to do much else, or we go to the green room and can have a laugh and talk about stuff, but my eye is always constantly on the relay screen and listening to the show relay, just so I know exactly where we are. And the fear of that there's always some point in a show where there'll be some silence on the relay, and you'd be like, oh my god. And it's not, thankfully, ever in my career, but the fear of being off is so great that I'm just constantly aware of who's in the room with me, when people are leaving to do their bit, what's on the screen, what am I listening to. But I don't know what about you, John?
Yeah, I think you and I have quite a similar, we call them the track, what you do during the show. I think me and Jamie have a similar level of busyness in our tracks, although we don't really bump into each other that much, but we sort of as busy as each other. I do a lot of my scenes with Dominic Short, who plays Albus Potter, and him and we are running around backstage together for pretty much the whole show. So we're together. We sort of have, there are moments where we're apart, but to spend the show running around with the same person is super fun. And I don't think I'm silly backstage, but I don't, because the show is so fast paced and so hectic, and the stamina level, you have to be at such a high level of stamina for pretty much the whole show. Scorpius, I think, as well, is a very high energy role. So I like to just try and keep my mood up and have fun backstage with Dom. And if there's ever a moment where I'm like, before this scene, I actually need to not be so energetic or silly before the scene, then I will remove myself from that social, it's not a social situation backstage, but you know what I mean? Like, if I ever need to be ready for a scene emotionally, I'll make my body language different so people know not to whisper to me backstage or whatever. But yeah, I like to.
Aren't you both? It's well-behaved backstage actors.
But also, I think Calum, like if you were, it would be an amazing if they were to do the sort of the noises off sort of production of Harry Potter and the Cursed Child and seeing it sort of from backstage, it's absolutely mental, and everything is so pinpoint. And when the new cast came in this time, and because John and I stayed on, and so there was a point where covers or swings wanted to learn some other bits and see what was happening, and so they would be in places backstage where there weren't normally people, and so I'd be running off in pitch black, knowing exactly where I was going for a quick change, and there's no one there ever, and then suddenly I'd run off. And I just sense a sort of a being in front of me. I'd be like, "What the hell?" Really clatter into them, and there's very little for. I think I might just go and do this tonight. Well,
I think a good example of that. Yeah. Sorry, Jamie. I just remember you'll remember this, unfortunately. There was a time where me and Dom leave a scene first. It's the McGonagall's office scene in part 2, and we run off first, and then you follow. And there are some big set pieces, big walls that are backstage. And there was one day,
I heard you
a few months ago, where this wall, genuinely, it was 2 feet moved down from where it usually is. And because my brain was like, I knew I have to run off stage and I have to run all the way around the back to do a quick change. And this wall had moved 2 feet. And I ran into the wall and screamed because my brain couldn't handle the fact that it was 2 feet moved. So yeah, it's the breadth of a hair backstage, some of it.
Wow. Now look, we've got just a couple of minutes left. We started slightly late, so if you don't mind, I'll just do a few more minutes, if that's okay. Should we see how many questions we can get through?
Yes.
Marvellous. Okay, so Sophie wants to know, if you could be another character in the show, who would you be?
Dumbledore.
Nice track. Yeah, nice track. I would love to have a crack at Scorpius, but also I think Draco would be a nice track. That would be sort of fun, but sort of a nice sort of respite from the madness of Harry.
Very good. Rebecca and Charlie Smith would like to know, what is your favourite line in Cursed Child?
I think I find it very emotional when I say, that's my mum at the window, I can see my mother. She looks so beautiful.
Mm.
Nice. John?
This is the whole scene. There's a whole scene that I love every single line from, and it's where me and Albus are looking. The audience is Hogwarts, and we're looking at Hogwarts. And I'm talking about how much it means to me that I went to Hogwarts, which was my dream to go there, and my dream to find someone who's as good of a best friend as Albus is. I love that scene.
Yeah.
Great. Betsy would like to know, when you were younger, who was your acting idol? John, you first this time.
When I was younger, I mean, I love Kate Blanchett. I was very upset when she saw the show in Australia, but you know, if she was there, she was there. She's one of my absolute favourites.
And Jamie?
Gary Oldman.
Excellent, great choice. Emily Berg would like to know, what would you use to cast? What memory would you use to cast a Patronus? Jamie.
Oh, I don't know. John, can you think of? You go first.
Oh, it's weird when you're thinking about your own happy memories. I went to New York recently on holiday for the first time. I think that would be the freshest happy memory for me. I would use that for now. It's a bit of a cop-out. Sorry, Jamie.
No, mate. I would have to think of being with my brother and his family and my dad. And I mean, but try and mingle that with, family. My mum being back alive.
Excellent. And that was a difficult one, wasn't it, to do quickly? This is Marine would like to know, do you still get stage fright, either of you?
Yeah, I do every day. Yeah, every day. I get wheeled on at the start of the show, so I have to be sitting down, which is a weird thing because there's a lot of nervous energy I get at the beginning of every show, and I have to contain all that and be sitting down and get wheeled on stage. But yeah, I get nervous every day, and Anthony, who pushes me on stage amongst other brilliant things, he and I talk every day, and I can sense how nervous I am every day, even though it's been 2 years.
I do still get stage fright. It's not every day. There is usually a point in a play where I go, once I got past that bit, then I'm okay and it's fine. And at the beginning of Harry, we had a move in a fight where I was constantly getting. It was hurting a lot, and so once that was out of the way, I was fine. We've now changed that, so that's been removed from my sort of psychological journey. But backstage at the beginning of the show, I'm not stage frighty, but definitely there are moments when it can really hit.
This will probably have to be the last question, and I think it's slightly more of a statement, actually, I think, than a question, but it'd be nice to read. Ida says, does Johnathan know his role as Scorpius is very meaningful to us in the LGBTQ community?
Yeah, I definitely do. I think it was something that I think, like I've already mentioned, his plight as someone who is sensitive. He's a sensitive young man with qualities that you could attribute to being quite feminine, whatever that means to you. And he's, he does seem quite. He seems his emotional openness with Albus as his best friend is something that is very unusual to see, and I think it's quite beautiful. And I think they do have a love story. Like, I think it is there, and whatever you make of that is up to you. But I think they love each other, and I think also his character in general he speaks to a lot of the LGBT experience because he's considered an outsider. His qualities, to some, are considered negative attributes, and he gets bullied for them. And he's awesome. And I really appreciate the fact that he does connect with the community, because I think it's really important.
Amazing. Look, we're running swiftly out of time. The results are in for the poll, and the story they would like to hear is John's magic trick goes wrong.
I'm not surprised.
Can you give us a kind of potted version of that story, John?
Yeah, so this all happened in the first month that I did the show. So as we said, we did a sleight of hand workshop, and as I said to you at the start, Scorpius only does 2 spells in the show, and there's a bit where there's a prop. I won't say what the prop is, but there's a sleight of hand moment that I do where the prop switches from a real one to something different, and I'm in charge of swapping it, and it then is on my person, but actually it looks like it's over there. And in the first month of doing it, so it's in my jacket pocket basically, and I turn and it flies out of my pocket, skids into the wings. A bit embarrassing, but kind of fine. A couple of weeks pass, and same moment happens. I've switched them out. It's in my pocket, but actually it looks like it's over there to the audience. I turn around. I do the same bit where I run, and it fell out of my pocket the first time. This time, it falls out of my pocket at sort of head height, smashes onto the wall of the stage into about 10 pieces. I sort of do a weird foot kick thing to get some of the pieces off, and then I just point at where it should be, as if to say, "Don't look at, don't look at me. Look at that." And I thought, well, that's the worst thing that could possibly happen with this moment. I was wrong. A few weeks later, the same moment happens. I'm like, okay, well, it's obviously the bit where I'm turning and running where this is falling out of my pocket. So let me just be very careful about that. So I'm being very careful. That doesn't happen this time. Brilliant. The thing that I replace it with is over there. The audience see it. They don't see it's in my pocket. I make a gesture in the scene, and this prop falls out of my pocket onto the floor by my feet. So now it's just on the floor. I pretend it's not there, finish the scene and leave, and stage management had to go in the dark and get it for me. But hey,
the magic of live theatre, eh?
Yeah, there you go.
Look, that just about concludes our bonus Wizarding Wednesday Chatterbox episode. Now, you both have been so kind to come up with a few suggestions for our lockdown list, which is a series of things to keep us creatively stimulated in isolation. As we're running out of time, maybe you guys could text those to me and I can pop them up on our social media for people to have a look at.
Perfect.
Of course. One thing I would say is that there is the National Theatre and the Royal Shakespeare Company are being amazing, and other theatres being amazing at putting out filmed productions online to view. So get viewing those. It's such a wonderful forum, and you get to see them in up close and personal. And if you can, donate anything to the theatres to keep them going, then great. But yeah, there's a wonderful plethora of things online right now to watch. Get viewing.
Top tip. So look, thank you all so much for joining us. Everybody out there, please join me again on Friday at 4 p.m. for our regular Chatterbox session, when I'll be chatting to the star of Jamestown on Sky and The English Game on Netflix. It is, of course, Niamh Walsh who will be joining me. Jamie and John, thank you so much for
Thank
being
you, Calum.
Wednesday.
Thanks, Calum.
It's so lovely talking to you both.
Cheers,
You
buddy.
too. Thanks, everybody.
A final reminder, the reason we're here is to support the work of Playbox Theatre, and they really do need your support. You, people out there, you. No donation amount is too large or small, so please head over to playboxtheatre.com/donate and give whatever you can. If you've enjoyed this episode, or indeed any of the episodes, please go wild for us. On social media, we are at Playbox Theatre on Twitter and Instagram. You can find us at facebook.com/Playbox Theatre. That's it for now. Hopefully see you in a few days on Friday at 4 with Niamh. For now, stay creative and see you soon. Goodbye.
Bye.
See you guys.